you hosted this volunteer appreciation night, which was an excellent idea, and all volunteers really enjoyed that very much. I wanted to ask you if that was the first time you organized this type of event?
Not really. We've had a similar event called a volunteer wine and cheese night for I guess for about the last 10 years. This was the first time, though, that we decided to officially hand out certificates of achievement, and we intend to do that more in the future, and probably not just once a year. We think it's important to let volunteers know where they stand with us, and it's a sense of reward in that if you do a good job, then we'd like to mention that. But we're very careful about how we present those awards, and the fact that they were awards for achievement and not necessarily awards for best of or worst of or that kind of thing.
I think that it was really a terrific idea, because our viewers who watch the Ready program sometimes, or most of the times, do not really know how much effort and work is involved in producing that program. So therefore, sometimes we think we are not appreciated enough, and just this fact that you people who watch us from the other side of the story do appreciate is very, very important. How have you chosen those categories?
Well, it was a staff thing, much the same as the evening was at the Holiday Inn. The entire staff participated in the presenting of the achievement certificates and that sort of thing. We got together and at a staff meeting and went over all of the programs that had been produced in 1985, and nominations were brought up from the staff for the various subjects. I think also the areas of achievement were sort of decided on that same way, and then we narrowed it down to one or two people or whatever the case it was, and then voted more or less on it, and eventually came up with.
Have you had a really hard time to decide as for those winners or those awarded?
In some cases, yes. In other cases, I think it was fairly clear to us. Certain volunteers who we know and have known for many, many years and have been involved in many different programs, not just one program. I think one of the things that we don't mention, and I'd like to talk to your program viewers tonight, is that a lot of people, especially when it's a program so very distinct as yours, which more or less would only appeal to those people that understand Polish and have some interest in the Polish culture, they may sort of only watch Channel 10 for that one program. But in fact, Channel 10 is on the air most of the week, 7 days a week, and we have a different group of people like yourself and the rest of your volunteers who work on individual programs. When we add that all up, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 250, 300 people at any given time working on programs, no matter how insignificant their particular input is. So there's a lot of people that are involved that perhaps your viewers and your group may not know about. And they're all taken into consideration. And next year, when we get around to doing it, perhaps it'll be a little bit more splashy. Perhaps the certificates might be a little bit better, whatever. It depends. A lot of the input and a lot of the support for that must, of course, come from the volunteers themselves.
Yes. Could you please tell us something about the Award of Excellence, which takes place every year, and our Polish program was also nominated from that station. Have we had any success? Have we received anything?
Well, I don't know if I should tell you this. The Canadian Cable Television Association, which is known sort of by its initials as CCTA, each year for the past couple of years now has had two competitions. One is Awards of Excellence, and the other is an award called the Omer Girard Award. To take the latter one, Omer Girard was a pioneer in the cable television industry. In fact, he had a cable television system in a place called Magog in Quebec, and he was a very early pioneer. Because of that, he's been honored by naming an award after him. And that award is an innovation award. It doesn't have to be a program, but it has to be in the area of programming, something that is totally innovative. That's one area that we as a cable company will enter. It could be a program, it could be an idea, it could be a new gadget, for instance, if you look at the cameras. This year, our entry for it was our Calgary Multicultural Advisory Council, which you're on the board of directors. And that one was entered for that. There were 5 finalists, and we were one of those 5 finalists out of about 100 or so entries. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but we came in pretty darn close. Right. The second is about 10 areas of excellence, and there's different areas. There's areas for documentary, there's one for the best multicultural or ethnic program, and so on. Your program has, and I don't know what you're doing wrong, but it's come in second for about 3 years in a row now. No, it has won, of course, and it's come in second this year. In fact, the award this year for excellence in multicultural programming did go to a group here in Calgary, and that's to the Vietnamese group who program out of Calgary Cable Studio. We were the recipient of an award for the best documentary, which was done on the Peter Petrasic situation, and it was a program called Victims in Legal Dilemma. So we...
Calgary is quite well known right now.
We weren't shy. Yes, we did a good job this year. And maybe next year you'll have another shot at it. Maybe. And next year you'll come out with the trophy.
We'll try our best. Thank you very much, Derek, for sharing your time with us. And I hope our viewers learn something about, well, cable TV and our success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Chciałam jeszcze nadmienić, że program Kalejdoskopu podzielił dyplom uznania razem z programem Universality w dziedzinie programów seryjnych, a ja osobiście otrzymałam dyplom jako Most Innovative Volunteer na rok 1985. Proszę Państwa, prędzej czy później każdy z nas znajduje się w sytuacji, kiedy musi lub też chce zmienić swoje lokum. Wiąże się to przeważnie ze sprzedażą, kupnem lub innymi transakcjami tzw. real estate. Nie zawsze wiadomo, od czego zacząć i jak przeprowadzić najkorzystniej daną transakcję. Postanowiliśmy więc rozpocząć serię rozmów z agentami real estate na terenie Calgary, z agentami polskiego pochodzenia, którzy odpowiedzą Państwu na pewno na wiele interesujących pytań. Pierwszym naszym gościem jest Mike Sumiński, który już od 5 lat jest pośrednikiem kupna-sprzedaży w Calgary. Mike urodził się już w Kanadzie, dlatego też rozmowę po angielsku na temat, jak najlepiej sprzedać dom, będzie prowadził Tom Skrzypiński.
Michael, we have a pretty vast subject matter to cover tonight, so perhaps rather than waste any time, let's just go at it.
All right.
The first question should be an easy one for you, particularly for somebody in a position as unbiased as you are. Let's first ask you, once I've made a decision to sell a house,
yes,
are there any advantages to having a house sold by a professional like yourself?
there are several advantages. First of all, we can expose a home to the market to a greater number of potential buyers. The second reason that the owners usually, if they're selling it on their own, they'll have to accept less. And usually that results in attracting bargain hunters and casual lookers. And another reason is, actually more of a disadvantage for the owner, for sale by owner, is that they have to pay all the advertising on their own. And I would believe probably the largest or the biggest disadvantage is the exposure on the market, whereas the homeowner has 2 or 3 people trying to sell their home, whereas myself and in the real estate industry, we have this probably close to 2,600 agents, the possibility of 2,600 agents actually helping to sell the property.
So there are some pretty tangible advantages to having the matter handled by you rather than by myself.
Yes.
Okay, once I've decided to do it through you,
yes,
not yourself yet, how do I decide who to use? How do I go about selecting an agent?
Well, probably one of the best ways is through friends or neighbors who have recently sold their home or bought a home, and they'll probably recommend someone to you. And another way is through probably mortgage officers who work with agents daily, and they probably give you an honest and candid opinion and recommendation who to go to.
Now, once the selection is made, how long am I committed to using you before I can bail out and try it on my own or move on to another agent?
Well, there's 2 choices. First of all, you can go through the multiple listing service, and that's a minimum of 60 days, and then it could be 60, 90, or 120 days, whatever it's agreed upon between the owner and the agent involved. Or if it's exclusively just working with one company That's negotiable anywhere from 1 day to 365 days for the year.
What kind of fees are involved, and who pays them?
Okay, first of all, two types of fees. Again, with the multiple listing, if there's a choice to go with multiple listing, it's 7% on the first $100,000 and 3% on the balance. This is on the sales price. And if we choose to go exclusive, it's usually 6% on the first $100,000 and 3% on the balance of the sale price.
And that's not negotiable. That's just the way it is.
That's pretty well a guideline. There could be some, but it's pretty well, that's a sort of a guideline we use in the industry.
How do I go about deciding what the best price to ask for the houses?
Well, probably the best way is through comparable homes that have recently sold and comparable homes that are on the market right now. That gives you an idea what you're competing against. And again, you have either the economic situation, let's say in Calgary this time, location is very important, and then another thing is the wear and tear on the house, and number.
Are there any advantages to try to, let's call it, highballing the market? In other words, ask for way more than what you would realistically expect to
well, you could do that, but again, it helps other homes sell faster. And
so you may be stuck with it for quite a while.
Could be, and another top agents who know the market, they may use your home and then show you another home to show you how you know how out of line one is and how the other one is in market value.
Are there any specific things that I can do when I try to sell a house through yourself? For example, in order to enhance the attractiveness of the place and make it sell faster. Easy.
Well, I think so. There is. I think price is important, but I think showability is very important too. Homes are bought by homeowners usually that emotional appeal. If you can get that emotional appeal and make the home look exciting, that helps a lot. And people looking at home look for the well caring of it, the warmth of it, and if it's clean.
The
cleanliness helps a lot. Yeah.
Any particular places in the house that should be pay more attention to than maybe others if you don't have the house to keep the time to keep the whole place spotless?
I would think would be like the family room and the kitchen and the master bedrooms are probably the three most important rooms to take care of.
Quite often I hear that the bathrooms are pretty important selling feature as well.
That would be too. It would be too. But overall, I think it's again, it's just almost like buying a car. You know, you rather buy the dirty one or the clean one. And I think it's a human psychology which one people would go to.
What, now talking about different variations of those two variations, one is MLS, the other one is an exclusive.
Yes.
What is the advantage of MLS, that is multiple listing service, compared to an exclusive?
Well, you're exposed to, it's exposed to approximately 2,600 salespeople who are members of the Calgary Real Estate Board. And whereas exclusively it is done, but again, it's limited to that certain company or that certain salesperson. And bottom line is exposure on the market.
Exposure is what sells the house faster.
Yes, and probably
exposure means more people going through the house, and
that's right, because usually I would say anywhere from 90–95% of people looking at homes are using the services of a salesperson.
What would you say for a seller? Again, that's the subject we're talking about right now. Is it important to have a lawyer represent you in a sale?
Very much so. You have to, his duties are for you to make sure the title's in place and there's a statement of adjustments, and then again for the legalities and the terminologies and everything, just to protect your interests. So
is it as important, would you say, as it is in the case you're buying a home?
Yes, both ways.
Just as?
Just as important, yes. Because again, you don't want any complications or problems at the closing date.
Someone in your position, a professional agent, what do you specifically do to provide the exposure?
Well, several things. First of all, of course, is a sign on the lawn, and then we have our advertising through the local papers, and then through their Calgary Real Estate News, which is a free publication. Then we have referral systems across, all companies have referral systems across Canada. And then you have your open houses.
What do you do to qualify prospective purchasers? In other words, if I'm trying to sell a home, I don't want to be bothered with people who are window shopping.
Yes. Well, first of all, I personally, before I even show one home, I sit down with the prospective purchasers and go through an interview sheet with about 44 questions on it, so I can find out what they want, what they need, and what their affordability is. And that way I've screened the prospective purchasers. But on the other hand, I have to try to sell the house to other agents who have people too. And for me to control it, I always try to ask them personally, ask them if they've qualified their people and why they want to look at a certain home.
Can you describe the process involved in selling a home through real estate firms?
Well, yes, the first step is, of course, it goes, if it's chosen as the MLS, it's gone through the multiple listing, it gets onto the computer within a 48-hour period, and then it's gone through our branch offices and the local sales offices in the area. They'll have first-hand news on it. The next thing we do is, again, the for sale sign goes on the lawn, ads in the paper, and then depending on how the certain individual salesperson works, personally, again, it's a matter of canvassing in the neighborhood. So we find, again, there's sometimes friends and relatives who like to live in the same area.
What about all the details, all the paperwork involved in selling a home? Do you help in arranging that?
Yes, we know the efficient ways, let's say, for a mortgage to make sure it goes through smoothly, and then we follow along with the lawyers involved to make sure there is, again, no complications or problems at a closing date.
Maybe one last question, under the current circumstances, with all the uncertainties surrounding the economy, the oil prices being where they probably shouldn't be from our viewpoint.
Yes.
How do you see the future of the real estate market in Calgary over the next little while?
Personally, I think it's going to go up. I think we've got so much potential here in Calgary, and with the Olympics coming up here, and I'm just optimistic and excited about the future.
So the crystal ball is looking pretty good.
I personally do. I think there's opportunity, unlimited opportunity for us, and people investing in real estate.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Mike.
A pleasure.
Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Dobry wieczór Państwu. Oto wiadomości. Piłka nożna. Lechia Gdańsk, Widzew Łódź 1-1. Zagłębie Sosnowiec, Legia Warszawa 1-0. Motor Lublin, Pogoń Szczecin 4-2. Górnik Wałbrzych, Ruch Chorzów 1-2. Śląsk Wrocław, Zagłębie Lubin 0-0. ŁKS Łódź, Stal Mielec 1-0. GKS Katowice, Bałtyk Gdynia 3-4. Lech Poznań, Górnik Zabrze 0-1. Na jedną kolejkę przed zakończeniem rozgrywek Górnik Zabrze zapewnił sobie tytuł mistrza Polski, wyprzedzając Widzew lub Legię, które zajmą na pewno drugie i trzecie miejsce. Spadek do drugiej ligi jest już pewną drużyną jest Zagłębie Sosnowiec, a drużyny Stali Mielec, Zagłębia Lubin, Motoru Lublin i Bałtyku Gdynia będą walczyły o pozostanie w lidze. Druga liga. W grupie pierwszej prowadzi Olimpia Poznań przed Zawiszą Bydgoszcz i ma 3-punktową przewagę. Podobna sytuacja jest w grupie drugiej, gdzie Polonia Bytom wyprzedza Wisłę Kraków o 3 punkty i tylko te 4 drużyny będą liczyły się w walce o awans do pierwszej ligi. 4 maja odbędzie się Puchar Polski w piłce nożnej, gdzie wystąpi GKS Katowice i Górnik Zabrze. Górnik Zabrze tym słowem może zdobyć podwójną koronę. Ligi zagraniczne. Juventus, który wygrał w ostatniej kolejce, ma 2-punktową przewagę nad Romą i pozostał jeszcze jeden mecz do rozegrania. Roma Zibiego może tylko i wyłącznie wygrać wtedy, kiedy Juventus przegra, a Roma wygra, gdyż mają o wiele lepszy stosunek bramek. Anglia. Liverpool przed Evertonem, trzecie miejsce West Ham, który ma stratę 7 punktów, ale ma do rozegrania 3 mecze więcej, więc potencjalnie może w ogóle wygrać ligę. Mecze towarzyskie. Brazylia NRD 3-0. Brazylia wystąpiła bez Sokratesa i Zico. Urugwaj, River Plate 1-1. Bułgaria, Rumunia 3-0. Duńczycy wystąpili tylko bez Landrupa. Miażdżąca przewaga Bułgarów w drugiej połowie 3 bramki. RFN wygrał ze Szwajcarią 1-0. Bramkę strzelił weteran niemieckiej reprezentacji Uli Hennes. Bernd Schuster definitywnie odmówił gry w reprezentacji, nie wystąpił w Mistrzostwach Świata. W Mistrzostwach Europy w ping-pongu, które odbyły się w Czechosłowacji,
Polacy zdobyli 3 medale. Srebrny w singlu kucharskim oraz brązowy w singlu grubba oraz drużyna męska brązowy. Rins Michel został powołany na trenera reprezentacji Holandii, która jest przeciwnikiem Polaków w Mistrzostwach Europy 88. Mark Wright z Southampton odniósł poważną kontuzję nogi i niestety Bobby Robson ma następny kłopot. Po swoim imienniku Robsonie ma następnego zawodnika, który niestety został wyeliminowany z Mistrzostw Świata. Andrzej Iwan w meczu z Legią doznał ciężkiej kontuzji podudzia, najprawdopodobniej jest to złamanie i wyeliminowało go to z Mistrzostw Świata.
Dnia 4 maja w niedzielę o godzinie 3 po południu Stowarzyszenie Polsko-Kanadyjskie przy współudziale innych organizacji polonijnych organizuje w Domu Polskim Akademię z okazji 3 maja. Organizatorzy zapraszają całą Polonię. Dnia 10 maja w sobotę Stowarzyszenie Polskich Kombatantów organizuje Dzień Matki, połączony z wyborem Matki SPK na rok 1986. Początek imprezy w sali kombatantów o godzinie 18. Bilety w cenie $10 dla członków i $12 dla gości sprzedają panowie Łazowski, telefon 277-88-20, Fortyński, telefon 272-3503 i Wakoluk, telefon 277-64-33. Serdecznie zapraszamy. Towarzystwo Krzewienia Kultury Polskiej zawiadamia, że dnia 17 maja w sobotę o godzinie 8 wieczorem w Domu Polskim odbędzie się recital fortepianowy znanego kanadyjskiego pianisty polskiego pochodzenia Marka Jabłońskiego. W programie utwory Chopina i Szymanowskiego. Bilety w cenie $6 oraz zniżkowe dla młodzieży, rencistów oraz członków TKKP w cenie $4 są do nabycia u kierownika Domu Polskiego, telefon 291-3757 oraz członków zarządu towarzystwa. Dnia 18 maja w niedzielę o godzinie 12 w Kościele Polskim odbędzie się msza święta za żołnierzy poległych pod Monte Cassino. Następny program Kalejdoskopu Polskiego będzie również w całości poświęcony rocznicy zwycięstwa pod Monte Cassino. Proszę Państwa, nawiązaliśmy ostatnio kontakt z panem Ryszardem Piotrowskim, który przygotowuje program pod tytułem Polonia w obiektywie w Winnipeg. W ramach zapoczątkowanej wymiany taśm pokażemy Państwu fragment występu Jana Pietrzaka dla Polonii w Winnipeg. Życzymy dobrego odbioru.
W pierwszej klasie to było na przerwie, nauczyciel szedł łapiąc się ściany. Ja jak dziecko naiwne spostrzegłem, pan profesor jest w sensie pijany. Głośna z tego zrobiła się sprawa, był dywanik, dyrektor przemowa. Ty smarkasz na przyszłość, uważaj, tobie chyba się ustrój nie podoba. Do dzisiaj pamiętam odkupienie moje, że ten pijak się nazywał ustrojem. Wszyscy w pracy prezesa się bali, bo goś ham był ignorant i krzyku. Ulubieńcem był szefa centrali, o czym z kumplem gadałem nas w windzie. Ktoś nas kapnął i wkrótce już w kadrach wymówienia leżały gotowe. Zabierajcie się panowie do diabła, wam panowie się ustrój nie podobie. Do dzisiaj pamiętam odkupienie moje, że ten tuman się nazywał ustrojem. Na zebraniu koterni szanownej zapytałem niechcący przypadkiem, czy sekretarz i skarbnik by mogli wytłumaczyć, gdzie nasze są składki. Na dzielnicę wzięto nas zajutrz, bardzo groźne padały tam słowa. Pan silni, pan nie podoba socjalny, pan się ustrój ulewa i podoba. Do dzisiaj pamiętam odkupienie moje, że złodziei nazywają ustrojem. Raz przemięsnym w kolejce zebrałem, nagle widzę jak gdzieś z tylnej strony ekspedientki z zaplecza dźwigają podejrzanie ciężarne tobory. Mięsem ciskiem zacząłem potwornym, niegolątką to dzisiaj nie mija, o zgubienie moje, że to kurde jest wszystko ustrojem. Nie dowieźliśmy mleka, a tu życie ucieka i codzienność doskwiera jak wieńkowi siekiera. Świecko wroga nad ranem, nieocenzurowany, budzi ręki niejasne, że nadchodzą i straszne. Smuga cienia wciąż szersza, mija młodość nie pierwsza. Słońce jakby w niej ostre, kumpel zasnął pod mostem. Wredne życie się przetacza jak po grunie, niepotrzebnej głupie dni połyka czas. Pokolenie utraconych złudzeń, generacja zmarnowanych szans. Pokolenie utraconych złudzeń, generacja zmarnowanych szans. Wredniak